agreed on. So, okay. Justin, look, this is a really interesting question. And I think that, God, if I knew the answer to this, we'd be miles in front of where we are today. I think I can only give you, I guess, some personal perspective here. And, personally, what I think is going on is you've got an organisation who's, well, let's face it, I mean, the RAOs can't survive now without CASA. They're in a very peculiar situation in which they are CASA Proprietary Limited. They're a private version of the regulator. We'll call them CASA with a slightly hipper rap. But they're in a situation in which their very survival now is completely pegged on the relationship between themselves and the regulator. And so I think it's fair to say that CASA can now lean on RAOs to support them, and that they'll do exactly that because they don't want to be seen as standing against them. And this is, I think the members of the RAOs, and again, I'm speaking personally here, that's just giving you some Ben Morgan perspective on the issue. I think the members of RAOs should rightfully be quite concerned, because I think the truth of the situation is that the member orientation of the RAOs is disappearing. It's evaporating very quickly. And members are no longer being seen as members, you're just being seen as a customer. And I know that under the Part 149 changeover, this is going to dramatically overhaul and reconfigure the RAOs, and I don't believe it's going to configure it for the better. And the reason I say that is, let's look at what's happened with airport privatisation. I mean, does anyone in Australia believe that airport privatisation has actually benefited Australia's general aviation community? I mean, let's just recap airport privatisation. Increases in rent, increases in fees, increases in charges, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700% increases. The increases have continued to climb. Now, what have we seen happen with the RAOs? If you're an external commentator and you're looking at the RAOs as a business, imagine if it were a stock market listed entity, we'd have all these analysts looking at the metrics of the business. Well, one of the metrics we should be looking at is the annual cost of membership. It's climbing. The cost of registration, it's climbing. The fees, it's climbing. The charges, it's climbing. There is no end to this climb, because once they become a legislated co-regulator under Part 149, the compliancing costs will start ramping up. Now, RAOs only generates income from one place, and that's you, the aircraft owner and the pilot. And so for you to continue to hold your privileges with this private company, you're just going to have to pay higher and higher rates. And if you refuse to do so, if you make the conscious choice and you say, I'm actually not prepared to pay these ridiculous prices for my freedom to fly, then you'll just simply be told, well, you can't fly. Now, I have to question whether that's actually a good thing or whether that's a horrific thing, because right now in Australia, no private organisation can stop you from flying. It's your right as an Australian citizen to participate in general aviation. But if we allow the industry to be consumed by Part 149, then guess what? Let's fast forward 25 years. In 25 years' time, you'll have to be a private member of 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 12, 15, 20 private groups in order for you to utilise a multitude of different aircraft. And I've got to ask myself, how is it that the world's most successful general aviation economy, being the United States, has actually gone the opposite direction? They've got a unified industry. Everyone operates under the one system, and it works beautifully. And I think that anyone that has never been to the US needs to go. You need to actually go to the United States and have a look at just how well the system works to see just how efficient it is. And I think that once you do that, you'll come back to Australia and you'll realise, I think we're being sold a pup. I think we're being led down the garden path, and that the only beneficiaries that will eventuate from the direction we're going will be the head representatives from a lot of these organisations. Again, that wasn't an AOPA perspective. That's Ben Morgan. I'm speaking personally about my view. I'm very interested. If you've got a view, put your view down. I'm very interested in it. But I do believe in this one fundamental, and I'll repeat the statement again. I really believe in open, transparent discussion, and I think everyone will agree. I've earned a reputation, whether I like it or not, in this industry, of speaking my mind. I believe that the only way we will solve the problems that are facing general aviation is we have to debate them. We've got to put them on the table, and we need to work our way through a multitude of discussion, whether we like the discussion or whether we don't like the discussion. We have to have it. We have to work out what is the best way for our industry to proceed and what will benefit the most Australians with respect to our decision making. Okay, so I've got some more questions coming in. How does GA and RA coexist? I don't know. I think largely we do coexist under the current system, but we have this one fundamental difference, which is we believe CASA's responsibility is to provide standards. And I think to come back to this discussion and to labour a point, it's a core belief of AOPA that CASA should say it's safe to fly an aircraft on a private driver's licence self-certification medical up to a certain weight. It's not CASA's responsibility to say it's safe to fly on a private driver's licence self-certification medical up to 600 kilos only if you're a member of RAOs. That's, I'm going to call it, that's bullshit, right? That's bureaucrat speak for we're playing protectionism with a private company. That's called corruption, ladies and gentlemen. That shouldn't be going on in the Australian aviation industry. Our regulator should be setting a safety standard, and that standard should be promulgated, and all organisations have access to that standard. There really should not be favouritism. There should not be any involvement by Australia's aviation safety regulator in the concerns and activities of a private self-administration body. It really shouldn't be going on. The fact that it is going on and we've accepted it, well, I think that's another issue entirely. But you know, my firm view, and I believe it's the view of AOPA, is that this shouldn't be happening. To come back to the question, I just thought about, did I answer your question? I'm being a bit of a politician there. To answer your question, we can coexist. I mean, AOPA and EAA coexist in the United States. And I think that, to clarify it, AOPA, SAAA, MROBA, and all the type groups, we do coexist. We fully support one another, and we embrace the differences between our organisations, and we embrace the things that we agree on, the things we disagree on, the things that we know we need to work together on. We get it. The Australian General Aviation Alliance has looked at these issues, and we've said there's more to gain from debating with one another and coming to consensus than there is standing alone. So I hope that there will be a change in the direction of the RAOs. I think that maybe there needs to be a process of awakening, that the members of the organisation need to come to the realisation that they too are part of this general aviation industry, and that if they're going to succeed at being part of the industry, that they're going to need to ensure that their executive level representation and their board are actually carrying forward the actions and agreements that reflect the type of organisation that they want to see. And I have to question whether the actions of recent in the executive management of the RAOs going out and trademarking the AOPA freedom to fly slogan, and whether trying to deny the general aviation RPL and PPL industry of a self-certification medical really is representative of the membership. Because I mean, I know thousands of RAOs members across Australia, and the message I'm hearing loud and clear from them is that these decisions are being made without anyone being asked what their views and opinions are. And I think that's quite poor. I think AOPA is a member-based organisation, and I know for a fact that if we make decisions that are not supported by our members, they fight back. Our members get on the phone and they say, hey, listen here, Ben, we didn't agree to that. You know, we need a better process. And so we try to involve the members through our polls, our surveys, and our online contributions. And I'd like to see the RAOs do the same. I would love a real referendum on the issue of Class 2 reform. And I don't want RAOs to run the referendum. I want CASA to run the referendum. I want the Minister for Transport, our Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Michael McCormack, to require the Civil Aviation Safety Authority that it actually sends an email or a letter to every single RPL and PPL pilot in this country and asks them if they want a self-certified driver's license medical, because they ultimately are the ones that this affects. They are the ones who should be providing their feedback. Okay, we've got some more questions coming in. Our industry can coexist if there's a single standard for same operations. Okay, I mean, Vice President Richard Talbot, you're raising some really interesting questions there. And that is the ability to coexist comes with having an industry built on standards, using available data to identify clear risk, and for that risk to dictate the level of safety regulation that is required, and safety regulation to be delivered by way of creating a standard and then allowing the free market to do what it needs to do. That means no favoritism, no looking after the boys, no deals behind the scenes, no more closed room, consultation panels looking after pals. All that's got to go. That's kind of politics of the past. That's got to be eradicated. The industry needs some real transparency, and we need some real accountability regarding the decision-making process. And I'll come back to it. I've earned a reputation in this industry as being loud. I mean, I hear it all the time. People say, Ben, you'll go, you're fearless. You'll go out and you'll say these things. I'm not fearless. It's easy to advocate when you're coming from a position of truth. It's very easy to stand up from people when you're advocating for something that makes common sense. It's very easy to say no when a policy is wrong. It's very, very easy to stand against a sitting deputy prime minister and to say you've got it wrong when you've got it wrong. We need to cut through the garbage. We need to ensure that our aviation industry is being properly represented. And right now, I'm afraid to say that it's not. The consultation frameworks from the top to the bottom really need overhaul. We should not have our safety regulator deciding who it consults with. It should be a function of government that ensures that industry associations are actually consulted. And I can tell you this straight up, they're not consulting. They're not sitting and they're talking with us. They're not feeding the information back, seeking any kind of level of dialogue. It's, this is what we're doing, like it or not, bye-bye. And that's not good enough. And I hate to say, CASA, if you're listening, I hope someone from CASA is chiming in. We got your number and we're not going away. This is going to continue. We will continue to stand up for the people of this general aviation industry that believe that they should have a better deal. And, if you think that you're going to tire me out, you think you're going to tire the AOPA out, come on, guys. It's not going to happen. We'll be popping our head up come Monday morning and we'll be stepping in to serve. So we'd love to see the government get on with it. We'd love to see CASA get on with it. It's time for change. It's time that this industry, that the people of our general aviation community were really given the tools and resources to succeed.